Peace to the gods. Peace to the gods. Yusufel here. Yo, look, I came with a message today. I've been in this space for about 20 years, and I've seen it's just amazing how all the changes that I've seen, all the different gurus come and go, and there's been some very wonderful times. Like my time that when I was doing Blog Talk Radio, that was really a fun time. When I was doing Blog Talk Radio and we were having guests, the radio era was a very fun era. And then of course everything came to YouTube. But during that time, just watching all the different um, changes that have come and go over the years, all the different gurus, all the different processes that have come and go. And, during that time, in each one of those stages, everybody was seeking or looking for some holy grail, some missing information that is eluding them, some sort of, um, if I just find this bit of piece of information, and then you're hunting around the different gurus hoping that they have the answer, and nobody ever finds out anything. And it's been like that for 20 years. Just been like that for 20 years. And when I started the school, it was to try to help people save themselves some time um, from getting involved in that elusive, holy, some magical formula that's going to just magically um, keep you out of the jurisdiction of the court, or some process that's just going to magically pay for all your bills. I've never seen or witnessed any of that. All that I've seen and witnessed is that you had to be able to demonstrate that you really knew the topic, and you had to know it down cold. There were a lot of different disciplines that you had to understand. You need to understand accounting, you need to understand commerce, contracts, public and private. You need to understand all those things, and you needed to be able to think on your feet. And I don't see all that, today, but I've never seen where somebody did a process and it not get challenged. And the only people that I have seen who have succeeded are the people who could defend what they were doing, and they could articulate it very well. And but I've never seen anything that's coming out of an echo chamber work where people just, let me explain the echo chambers to you, because the echo chambers don't like me because they think that I'm affecting their money. So they'll come and try to attack my business and say, oh, we can't counsel. You can counsel. All you have to do is log into your PayPal account and log into subscriptions, and you can cancel anything that you have connected to me, because that's where your subscription is. It's in your PayPal account. It's not with me. Okay, so you don't need to come over and try to denigrate my business because you don't like me, because you're not man enough or woman enough to confront me with what the real issue is, and that is that you don't like me. And the reason that you can't do that is because the reason you don't like me is going to um, compromise how everybody feels about you as a man or a woman, because they're going to say that really is some weak ass bitch shit that you upset and you mad about. Some of you are mad because you made a comment and I probably said that it was stupid, and it was stupid. You should take, I've been doing this for 20 years. If I say something that you said is stupid, it's stupid. It is stupid. I'm not saying that to be mean to you or anything like that. I'm saying that because you have just demonstrated in a public forum that you are not the type of person that engages in independent study. You're a blind follower. You like to regurgitate what somebody else has said, no matter whether or not it makes sense or not. Okay, that's the issue. And you don't like me calling that out. But you have to understand is that I'm a warrior. And when you attack me, I'm going to crush you completely. I'm going to step on your head. I'm going to piss on your ass. All right. That's how I am. That's how I'm built. I don't back up off challenges. Okay. I steamroll your ass. All right. Because you should be listening. I have experience. I've been in hell. I've been incarcerated. I'm not gonna listen to no motherfucker that haven't been had no handcuffs on them. You shouldn't even talk to me at all. Haven't you had your freedom take away? So you need to shut the fuck up talking to me. I'm not going to listen to shit you got to say. You in here talking about traffic tickets, all I hear is you broke. I'm not thinking about traffic tickets. I got no mental energy to be expending on fighting a traffic ticket, and I'm trying to make millions of dollars. So you got to sacrifice one or the other. You want to fight. You want to fight the traffic ticket, or you want to devote that mental energy to getting this $1 million. When all of this was put together, it was put together to protect your freedom, not for your own self-aggrandizement or to enrich you. That is not the purpose of this. It wasn't put together. What you're looking at in this era is um, it is the accumulation over time of many different processes that have gone unverified that have built one upon the other. Well, it reached a point where now everybody has a certain belief system that, first of all, is not supported in law or fact in any capacity whatsoever. But it's a mythology that has come very, very, very strong. When I came into this, I came in talking, anybody who knows me all the way back to the Blog Talk days, I came in talking about public and private and how they don't mix. And I got that from that document, Creditors and Their Bonds, because that's the first document I ever read. And it just went in public and private, just in depth. You know, there are 4 rules. There's no money, there's the public and private, and they don't mix. You have to stay on at all costs and don't participate in public controversy. And it took many years to begin to understand each one of those rules. You know, like staying on at all costs. Well, to get equity, you must do equity. Your remedy is inequity, okay? Because when you do an administrative process, that's a contract situation. Contracts are resolved under equity, and human beings should be subjected to equity because God judges you in equity. And equity is fairness, impartiality, and even-handed dealing. Equity is how you should be governing your life to show you how to live honorably with your fellow human beings. But if you're not an honorable person, if you're selling drugs, if you're out speeding and drinking and driving, if you're committing shoplifting and things like that, none of these processes are available to you. They never were intended to you because one of the at the door of these processes is being an honorable person. And if you're not an honorable person, what makes you think that you should be afforded some sort of remedy? As you like to say. And what's required of the remedy is first for you to approach with clean hands and in good faith and being honorable. And you selling drugs, or you shoplifting, or you done injured someone. I don't understand why you thinking some of these commercial processes are going to free you in some kind of way, because I can tell you it's not. See, I'm going to give you the truth. Some dude ain't never been through nothing is not going to give you the truth because he ain't never really had to fight for his. That's why I wanted to play that video of this guy. He kept brought into court and they've been holding him 120 days. He hadn't been given a bond and he hadn't even been indicted yet. Okay, when I see shit like that, it brings back the memory of what I went through. And yes, that's the type of shit that made me do what I'm doing now, because that's when I really was trying to get at the judicial system, because they do some bullshit like that, and that will make you question justice. Like, how in the hell have you holding me in here for 120 days? You haven't even indicted me yet. Where's your evidence? You think you could just hold me? All right, that's what they will do. And that is when you see the ugly side of the judicial system. And in no kind of way will I ever, I'm fighting against that right there, because that is the trash of the American judicial system right there for them to do that. And that greatly resembles some sort of admiralty type style of incarceration. And, you know, fuck whatever they're talking about. So I will concede that yes, you will encounter some demons within the judicial system. And a lot of times it's in some of these white counties, okay, we're out in Buckfuck, Georgia, or something like that, where you getting arrested out there, and then they're gonna take you through the grinder and to make it look like justice, but at the same time, it's not going to be any justice at all. But that's also the reason why it is incumbent upon you to study something like my book, The Verification Doctrine. Why is that, Yusuf? Because it is a scientific, systematic way of establishing authority and who has the right to make claims. okay, and whether their claims can be substantiated, whether they do have a proper delegation of authority that is going all through all the chains of due process to ensure that everything is equitable. Okay, you got to start approaching things that way in a scientific way, and you got to let go of all this mythology that you're learning in all these echo chambers because it's never had any success rate. The success rate in this space is only like 2%, 1%, something like that. It's not very high. Okay. You get mad because I put this video on my channel because y'all won't talk about it. And that's deceptive. I have people that come on my channel talking about, oh, you playing these videos, you turning into like them. No, I'm playing these videos because you lying like them. Why are you lying to people and you won't let people see that this shit ain't working? What type of demon are you that you're going to tell people to go do something and they're going to run in the courtroom and try to do it, and the next thing you know, they're getting arrested and shit? You're a fucking demon trying to play like you an angel. Because that's why I play the videos, to expose you. That shit don't work. Look how foolish this person sounds in this courtroom. They're making a mockery of this space. This is law that we're talking about. It needs to be approached with respect that is required for you to succeed within it, not because you don't like it. Why y'all don't like this, right? It ain't about what you like or what you don't like. It's about what society as an aggregate has agreed upon, not the way you fucking feel. And see, like, look at this person. God giveth the state, taketh away. He's such a victim. God gave you something. He told you what to do. He told you, he said, when he said his son, he said, if you tell this mountain to be cast into the ocean, but do not doubt it in your heart, but believe the things that you have said as if they would happen, nothing shall be impossible for you. Why you don't speak life and strength into people? Why do you people continuously engage in this self-deprecating talk? You know, where you're this defeatist attitude that is somebody's has some sort of authority over you. Ain't nobody got any authority over you. What you have to do is you have to learn how to respect authority. Then authority will begin to respect you. And that begins on the natural law level and the man-made level. Because in order to defeat nature, you must obey her. Well, that's the same thing. If you start respecting the laws will start working in your favor. The reason the laws aren't working in your favor and shit is getting taken away from you because you keep trying to go against it. Thinking that you're doing something right. How do we determine what's right or wrong without engaging in some sort of self you done everything over the last 50 years? Well, I won't say that's not been my experience. That's not been my experience. That's not been my experience. Well, that right there, those private placement memorandums, there's a million of y'all out there trying to do that shit. Most of y'all don't have 97% of the stuff out there in that space is fraudulent. You know, most of it is fraudulent. You know, you don't have any real valuation behind what it is that you're trying to do. Or you haven't taken all the appropriate steps to, get it placed properly. But I've been familiar with that space for a long time, and one thing I know for a fact is 97% of them private placement memorandums are fraudulent. People trying to figure out some kind of way to get something for nothing. That's where you don't see what people fail at is you there's no such thing as something for nothing. You see, when people try to get something for nothing, it demonstrates that they are ignorant of natural laws. They could never succeed in anything in life because they never were taught natural laws, and they don't respect natural laws. They don't believe in natural laws. They are atheists. They are Marxists. They are socialists. They are heathens. This is the mindset of these type of individuals right here. They don't think, like, if I could be speaking about natural laws, somebody say, Yusuf, you need to stay talking about commerce. Man, you need to get the fuck off my channel and shut the fuck up talking to me. Okay, because if you can't understand what I'm saying, everybody else wants to hear me talk about that. If you don't, turn off the channel because I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to talk about what the fuck I want to talk about on my channel. And if you don't like it, you can go. That's all. That's all the conversation is going to be. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to stick to what I want to stick with. You can roll with it or you can go somewhere else. But as I'm not about to sit here and try to kowtow to you and everything because you don't like what I'm saying. Man, fuck you, man. That's my thinking. I'm like, fuck you. I'll block your ass. You know what I'm saying? You put a comment, you're getting blocked. That's all that's gonna happen. That shit is nobody's gonna read it, nobody's gonna see it. I'm blocking your ass. Because I don't want any negativity around me. And I kind of appreciate when individuals do expose themselves that way because that allows me to remove you from my circle because I don't want you around me. I don't want people around me who do not align with my thinking or my way of seeing things or in some kind of way they don't resonate with the message that I'm sending. Why would I want you on my platform? You are more than welcome to go. I'm speaking my truth here. And if you don't like it, there are other platforms that you can go to. But there's something about this platform over here, isn't it? There's something about me. There's something about me. I'm not like anybody else on this platform, am I? Nobody else is like me. There's nobody as articulate and knows this information the way that I do, that has the experience, that has the insight on things. There's not ain't a lot of people like that. But you know what? I had to work for this. It took a long time to acquire this. It took going through things to acquire this. And that's what makes you real. That's why you're not going to sell dreams to people. See, like when you've been locked up and or done something with this and you had to really fight and you were looking at something very serious and you came out on the other side unscathed. Okay, number one, you're always going to be thankful to the creator. You're always, it's one of the most humbling experiences that you'll ever go into life when God answers you and God reveals himself to you. And when you really see there is a God, you know, like, man, there really is a God. When you have that kind of experience in your life, that's life changing. It's going to change your life. And that's why you can't separate. And like, even though you attempt to do everything the right way, I'm not perfect. Nobody can do everything the right way. I've tried. I got struggles and things in my life that I go through right now that I try to, overcome, but I'm battling them and I'm, every day disciplining myself and getting better and better, just striving to be a better person every day, recognizing the faults in my character and so forth and trying to change those things as I go. And it can be really tough, because nobody's perfect. Um, Nobody's perfect. Uh, but the mindset that has this mindset that has come into this space, it is, in my opinion, it got infiltrated by Marxists. I really believe that there are Marxists that have infiltrated this space. And let me explain. The reason that y'all don't, when I say that word, you don't understand what I'm saying is you really haven't studied Marxism. So you don't really understand it, but it can be broken down very simply in just one sentence. It is the destruction of private property. Okay, it's the destruction of private property. There's no private property. All right, everybody's the same. It's socialism. Everybody's the same. There's no striving to be wealthy or anything like that. This separation between the rich and the poor. But see, the reason that it's a fallacy because the separation of the rich and the poor is not due to the fact that the rich are oppressing the poor. It's due to the fact that the poor refuse to change their thinking. The poor refuse to change their thinking. They think that they are right and they're not right. Being poor is an example of being separated from God. Now, what I mean when I say that, there's a lot of people gonna get upset at me saying that. It means that God is a God of abundance. God said, ask and it shall be given. So how can you be in a state of poverty? Are you saying that you've been asking God and he hasn't given to you? Okay, if you've asked God and he hasn't given to you, we need to explore that first of all and see why that is. Or have you even attempted to ask God for anything That's the majority of the cases. People won't, they just don't feel that in some kind of way that they can approach God, or they've been taught that a God doesn't exist or something like that. That's the bulk of it. But we need to explore that. Why is it that you're experiencing poverty? Is it somebody else's fault? Is that what you're saying? That it's something outside of you that's controlling, that the reason that you're experiencing a life that's not wonderful? What is the nature of reality? Have you ever thought about that? What is the true nature of reality? What's the true nature of reality? Have you ever really thought about that? What if the nature of reality is different from what they're telling us? Are they really the authorities on reality? When these people, all they deal with is physical things, they just deal with physical things. Are they really the masters of the mental? Do they understand the mind? They can't even imitate what the Egyptians were doing. I guarantee you this AI technology is extraterrestrial. I guarantee you it's extraterrestrial. The advances, think about this. And for 1,000 years, they made very, very slow advances. But immediately after that Roswell incident, within less than 100 years, look where we're at. We're at AI. We're about to have flying cars and all of this in less than 100 years. Technology doubles every 6 months. Ever since that alleged Roswell crash, we've been having technology like crazy. And next thing you know, we got a computer. Next thing you know, we got internet. Next thing you know, we got cell phones. Everything they've been showing us in the movies, we're getting. They put a movie out about it first, and the next thing you know, we're experiencing it. And then we just kind of write the movies off as just like entertainment. We kind of look at it for entertainment. Well, that may be the reason, or how they're circumventing karma, because they're saying, look, we tell them what's coming, they choose to look at it for entertainment. We don't tell them. We call it science fiction. That shit don't even make sense, but hey, they believe it. So we did our job. We told them what was coming. We told them what was coming. They didn't say nothing, so we have their sanction. We telling them that we telling them we're going to put microchips in everybody eventually. Do you know that computer equals 666? Y'all know that? Y'all know that a computer equals 666? Computer equals 666. I had to show y'all that one day. That computer equals 666. But I just think that it's when I look at this space, I think that it's been hijacked by Marxists because I really, really have taken the time. When you really start doing study like like I've been studying law very intensely, and the reason, like I'm gonna tell you what led me to understanding of Marxism and so forth. It was in studying this information and in trying to study how they obtain jurisdiction over you. What I found was minimum contacts. And and minimum contacts usually involve the acceptance of a benefit or a privilege. Okay, that's when you start studying the law. That's what you're going to find out. Okay, it's the acceptance of these benefits and privileges, and you can see the Ashwander rules, which are the 7 rules that have to pass judicial scrutiny before they will issue certiorari and hear a case. The Supreme Court. And one of them is number 6. They will not pass upon a one who's saying that something is unconstitutional when you're accepting a benefit and a privilege from it. So you can't call something unconstitutional while simultaneously taking a benefit and a privilege from it. Equity is not going to allow you to do that. It's not going to allow you to do that. So there has to be this. You have to give up. Okay, all of these repudiate all these benefits and privileges, and you have to demonstrate that. That was the thing about when people were trying to get rid of the Social Security number with using the SA 521 form. Okay, people are trying to get rid of this nexus that attaches them to the benefits and privileges. That's what the straw man really is. The straw man represents accepting benefits and privileges, okay, from the public. That's what it represents. Okay, so you cannot declare yourself away from that. There has to be some sort of conduct that changes. Okay, you have to stop using it. Matter of fact, if you call the Social Security Administration and you say you want to get rid of your Social Security number, all they're going to tell you is stop using it. Stop using it. It's not your number anyway. Right there on the card, it says it belongs to the Social Security Administration. The straw man is not your property. It's the property of the state. And you're being allowed to use it. And what you use, every time you use it, that is evidence of the acceptance of a benefit and a privilege, unless you change the terms of the contract. And that's what the secured party process was all about. Changing the terms of the contract, where the straw man was going to be utilized as a transmitting utility, as a bridge from the private into the public, so you could use private credit to offset public liabilities. All right, this is what the thing was. This is what the rebutting the presumption, the public presumption of you being amalgamated with this corporate created entity, as you like to style it, or this straw man, or this ens legis, or this nom de gore. Whatever you want to call it, all caps name, all these different things and phrases that you attributed to it, most of which are not accurate representations of what it truly is. Most of which, that's not what a person is, not what y'all think it is. That is the one thing I think that has hurt. When people ask me, well, what about the secure party process? Well, those are the parts I have to go back and change. All the references to this all caps name and this person. There is no argument that there isn't any money. And a lot of this is about the creation of money. Money is created through the creation of debt. And they're looking for many different creative ways to create debt or create obligations and liabilities against unsuspecting citizens. All right, that's the crux of everything that's going on in the country. Money is created through debt. Okay, so that underlies everything. And that's the reason why a secure party process was made back then, because money is created through security interests. And security interests follow a priority perfected interest. And that's the purpose of having the commercial chamber, for personal property. So this process was established to insulate you from anybody attaching you or your property utilizing some sort of process, to create some sort of obligation on you. But that requires you also to understand how to conduct yourself properly. And that's one of the problems that I see that's within this space, is that people do not want to change or alter their conduct. They think that they just can declare themselves away from something, and conduct doesn't have to change in any way whatsoever. And now they can keep doing things the way they already have. Let me tell you something. When you study trust law, you're going to see that that's fatal to a trust. For you to put property in a trust, but nothing changes about the administration or the character of the people that are involved in it, they're going to call it a sham in a minute and totally disregard it if it ever goes into court. They're going to call it a sham. And that's what a lot of people are doing. It's a sham. And that's how they're looking at you, because the underlying principle of equity of all law is substance over form. That's another way of saying actions speak louder than words. Your words have no import if there isn't any action following behind it. And the action following behind it is that you have to arrange your affairs in such a way where either you don't encounter the public, or if you do encounter the public, you have already structured yourself where you can control the capacity in which you appear in the public. Capacity is what you're trying to control. Capacity leads to classification, and classification leads to remedies. Okay, that's how you know what kind of remedy you're going to be afforded, by what kind of capacity that you appear in court. Example, if you appear in the capacity as a trustee, okay, well, there are certain remedies that are afforded to that capacity of trustee. Declaratory judgment is a remedy if there's something, that's just an example, as a trustee. So the capacity that you appear in is determinative of the remedies that you're going to be afforded. And the only thing you can control from the private side is what capacity you appear in the public as. That's what you are in control of. Okay. But you're not in control of that first and foremost if you don't know what I just told you. That capacity is the important thing in the public, and how you control that capacity through contracts, while at the same time honoring the public and the public laws and public policy. You cannot go against that. You cannot write a contract that goes contrary to public law or public policy. You can't do that. You have to respect their domain if you want them to respect yours. There's a mutual respect thing going on. You're not going to shovel out disrespect and then think that respect is going to be shown back to you. This ignorant trailer park type attitude that you see in all these echo chambers and everything, y'all need to get away from that. Okay, people are always mad every time they show up, every time they post something. The government is evil. The government did this to me. They taking our rights, putting you in a position where you're powerless. That's Marxism. That's Marxism all day, disguising it as being patriotic. That is what is so egregious about it. There's nothing patriotic about that. United States of America is a free country. And in a free country, that means you're self-starters. That means you build your own thing. The United States of America was built by people who did their own things. You can't take advantage of what somebody else has built and declare that you have some sort of right over it. That's never going to work. It doesn't have any chance of succeeding. None. And see, like he's saying, and like right here, he's saying, so what about appearing as a public influencer? They don't understand public and private. He don't understand public and private. You can look at a person that doesn't understand public and private by the questions that they ask, and immediately you can tell. And he'll think I'm trying to be mean to him. He right now he thinks I'm trying to be mean to him. He said, what about, does that override your personal identity? I don't know. Do you even know my personal identity? You don't even know me. You don't know me personally. You don't know anything about me. Why is that even being brought up? You talking about yeah, I'm like, why are you asking me that question? You don't like what I'm saying, do you? I've been listening to you for old videos, for your teachings are becoming clearer and clearer and clearer. Has there been any major changes from? Ain't been no major changes. Everything is the same. There's a public and a private, and they don't mix. All you're going to do is get a better understanding of that. Like the better understanding of it is first and foremost that the person is capacity. That's what the person is. It's capacity. Person determines the capacity. Its definition of words and whether or not it's an artificial person or a natural person. And then the capacity of that artificial person or that natural person has to be determined after that. Once that is determined, then there's a classification into the conduct that that entity engaged in, and that's going to determine rights, liabilities, duties, and remedies that are going to be afforded to it. They use a formula in the public, and when you learn that formula, now you can draft your documents to fit within that framework. You cannot force anything into the court that doesn't fit within that framework. It's not going to work. All right, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You got to understand their framework, and you got to be able to plug into that framework and get your remedy by utilizing what is available to you in the public. You got to know how to. Now, it's a lot of room for creativity and a lot of different things you can still do. This is not restrictive in any way. It's just that you have to honor their process if you want to receive something from them, because you're looking for them to give you some sort of remedy. Well, if you want a remedy from them, you have to follow their process. You're not getting a remedy from them and then you refuse to follow their process. It's not going to work. Capacity is not based off why don't you Google legal capacity? Why don't you Google it? He thinks capacity is talking about assets. That's what I mean. You got to learn this stuff, man. You can't. You got once you and I'm not faulting you because a lot of stuff I didn't know. A lot of stuff I didn't know. But now we have AI. We have AI, man. I've learned so much. I've learned so much, man. Listen, I can see that AI has a like I was just watching in China, and they making robots that's working on cars now. I can in the very near future, mechanics, body mechanics, and everything, auto mechanics ain't gonna have no job. Their job gonna get taken. The fast food industry jobs are gonna get taken. It's a lot of jobs that are coming to be taken. So I would strongly suggest to my followers that you learn artificial intelligence, or you at least utilize it to improve your knowledge in some sort of particular field of endeavor that you can see that these AIs aren't going to be able to encroach upon. Because even in the legal community, about 70-75% of law firms are closing because of AI. It's affecting their community as well. So you need to be trying to think of how you're going to take care of yourself in the very near future, because what is making you money right now may not be needed anymore in the near future. And you got to be prepared to adjust for that and prepare for it when it comes. That's why that book, Who Moved My Cheese, was so good to me, because that's what it's talking about. You preparing for change, because change is the only thing that doesn't change. Change is the eternal constant. Things are going to change. And if you want things to change in your life, you need to be the change that makes it happen. You have to decide to change things if you want things to change. Because one of the constants of the universe is if you do the same thing, you'll get the same thing. It's insanity to do the same thing and expect a different result because cause and effect doesn't work that way. Okay, for every cause, there's an effect. For every effect, there's a cause. That is precision. It has worked like that since the beginning of time. You're not going to change that. All you can do is honor it. And that's what I mean about the man made laws or the positive laws. You're not changing anything. So you need to honor it, okay, and then make it work for you. And you make it work for you by working within the system. It's not selling out. That's how it is. That's how it's always been. The things that y'all are talking about have never existed. This common law stuff that y'all talking about, I can't find any example of that shit nowhere. Nowhere. You know, I study common law, admiralty, and everything. I don't see this shit. You don't know what common law is. Common law is case law. Common law is judge-made law. Common law is unwritten law. Common law are traditions and customs of a people. Okay, but as those people grew, as those people became more sophisticated, okay, their common law morphed. Their common law started growing, okay, into a system. We started having cities where people could publicly come together and interact. So we had to create a system for that, as opposed to when we were out living in an agricultural community and everybody was just living on their land. You had your own private land. Well, common law operated differently then. But now we have cities, and in the cities, statutory codes that work govern. Because in this city, it is a municipality. It's a public place where people come and congregate together. There's going to be a different set of rules. But you're not understanding that. You're just thinking that the common law should apply wherever you go. It doesn't, or this private law, wherever you go, that operated in a certain type of way 200 years ago. It's not like that today. That's why they got stare decisis, to stand by things decided, to keep consistent in the court. These judges know what they're doing. I read the law all the time and I understand its framework, and nobody's trying to be malicious or anything. There may be a few people, that, like, for instance, I question some of these liberal Supreme Court justices, who are supposed to be unbiased, trying to shape law from the bench, because they have a liberal ideology. They letting people come in and try to, get their political ideology implemented into justice. That's not a place for it. And it's not a place for an individual like that on the bench. No place for that on the bench. The bench has to be impartial. But a lot of times you will interpret impartiality as something as being impartial, and it's not. It's because you're ignorant of the forum you're in. You're ignorant of the rules that apply. You're ignorant of the law and how it's to be interpreted. And, you're just ignorant of so many things. This is why they say that a man who has himself for a client when he said, a man who represents himself has a fool for a client. I can see why, because if you think you're going to enter the subject of law and learn it in a couple of weeks, you're just a damn fool. It's not happening. There's no way. There's no way. You have to have more respect for this, you have to have more respect for what attorneys do. I have a lot of respect for what they do. I do. I can appreciate it. Now, do they know everything? No, I'm not trying to say they know everything, but they understand procedure and they understand how the framework of the law is set up, and they know how to move in it. And that's what you don't want to learn how to do. You just want to be left alone. But how you have to be left alone, you need to go get your own land. You can't be left alone and you living in a city. You're under some sort of regulatory authority. It says compounded economic growth post-war was due to manufactured growth. Yeah, that's what that movie, The Man Who Built America, Andrew Carnegie was the steel magnate. He is responsible for all these cities. That's when the cities started being built. And you can follow what happened. It was like at first, America was an agricultural country. Everybody lived in the country. Everybody had their own land. Everybody grew their own food. Everybody educated their own children. That's how it was. But when we started developing commerce, and then we had to have places to conduct commerce. That's what cities were for. Cities were for places to conduct commerce. Like when I was growing up, my grandma, when she wanted to do business, she said, I got to go to town. But she lived in the country, but she had to go to town to conduct business. All right. That's what's happened today. Now we got roads where people drive, and now that regulatory authority is stretched into the private domain because now we have roads that go all the way up to our houses now. And so there's going to be, wherever those roads go, regulation is going to follow. Regulation is going to follow. It's a regulation, and it makes sense. I don't have a problem with it. It's not that them infringing upon your rights or anything like that. It truly is for public safety reasons. They're doing the best that they can. I don't see a problem with requiring someone to drive a certain speed. Okay. And then if you don't do that, you're going to get a ticket. Okay. You might not like the ticket, but that's what's going to happen. You got the laws of the rules of the road are put in place to protect you. And if you've ever seen accidents and things that happen like I have, then you can understand when you see the ugly side of these things, when the rules aren't followed, when they aren't abided by, and then you see the results of that as well. I'm sure a lot of police officers could also say that. And that's another thing with the police, like y'all say the police are corrupt. Okay, yeah, they're corrupt cops. I've encountered them. I'm a black man. I didn't buy. If you're a black man and living your life, chances are at some point in your life you done dealt with a corrupt cop or a racist cop or something like that. We've just dealt with that. But that's not the overwhelming majority of people in law enforcement. I for the most part, I meet a lot of honorable individuals in law enforcement, just doing their job, trying to do their job and trying to do their job the right way. But there are some, don't get me wrong. Yes, there are bad batches out there, and you will have some things like that. And it's good for you to know your rights when you do encounter those individuals, because you're going to encounter some of those individuals. And that's when you need what's worked for me when I've encountered them is knowing my rights. I remember one time I was in South Carolina. I was in a Mercedes Benz, and I was in a 550 Benz, and I had this girl with me, and we had just come from a wedding. And so I was staying at a Holiday Inn. It was in South Carolina in the country. This is a country, I'm out in a country town. And so the wedding was over. I'm coming back. We stand at the hotel. We pull up in the hotel. A South Carolina police officer is driving by as I'm coming in. And as I'm coming into the parking lot, he's coming out. And so I go and I park and I back in, and I can see him busting you and turn around and turn on his lights. And he drove up, and then he blocked me in too, where I backed in. He pulled in front of me and blocked me in. And so he gets out the car. I'm in a tuxedo. I'm in a tuxedo. She's still in a dress. We still dressed up. Like, you can see where we're coming from. And he comes over and said, there's been a lot of drug sales in this area. Can I get your license? Dude just came up just straight off the rip. I'm a drug dealer. I'm a drug dealer. I mean, just off the rip, he just said, I got to be a drug dealer. And the girl that was with me, she was from South Carolina. And she was just like, the first thing out of her mouth, she said, that is so racist. That is so racist. Because she just started, she couldn't believe it too. And I said, what? I said, so because I am a black man driving a Mercedes Benz, I have to be a drug dealer? I said, no, sir, I'm a businessman, and you need to contact your supervisor right there and get him here. All right, because there's some liability, and you need to give me the serial placement number of your badge, and because I need to know whether you're bonded, because you're definitely a liability on this county, and I need to see this. And he contacted his boss. I never showed them my ID or anything. At that point, I had to stand on something because, first of all, what was your probable cause? You know what he said the probable cause was? He said, I backed in. He said, and then I looked around the parking lot. I said, it's a lot of cars backed in. Are you saying they're all drug dealers too? He was just making himself look foolish. And his boss had to come and save him and get him out of a situation. They probably were watching me, for all I know. I don't know. But I never gave him any ID or anything like that. It's like, nah, man, what you talking about? You think I'm going to give you my ID, and all I did was just be a black man driving a car, and then I must be a drug dealer, and then you said that to me on top of it. That might be a situation where I would have went to jail that night, because I would have stood on it so solid that I say, you know what, let's go to jail, because we need to bring this into court. This need to get out to the news media. This need to get somewhere. Sometimes you do need to stand on something, and then sometimes it's not worth standing on it. I'm not going to stand on something like they got an app called Off the Record. Off the Record, and y'all can go to y'all store right now. It's called Off the Record. Okay, it's a very good app where if you get a ticket and all you're worried about is points on your insurance. All you do is contact them, give them the money. They're gonna take care of it. They're gonna take care of it for you. You're always gonna have to end up paying a fine. It's really for people who just want to pay a fine. If you just want to pay a fine with no points, you get that right there. That's for people who have money. People who don't have money, they're gonna waste time going in there arguing about some shit that I can just take care of for $200. Okay, here's $200, make that shit go away. Boom, I'm keep going. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to waste time arguing about that. But then there are some situations that are worth arguing. It's like, no, I'm not going to do this right now. This is a blatant violation of my rights, and I'm going to stand on that. All right, but when you're out engaging the public and you're not abiding by their rules and you know that you're not, but you're going to try to use some sort of process to get out of it, you're going to have a hard time. I'm not going to say it won't work for you, but you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time. When I went to jail, I stood on it because I really didn't do anything to anyone. And I stood on that shit. I'm like, man, I haven't done anything to anybody, man. And I believed in that. And I was really willing to stand on it to the death. I was willing to stand on it to the death because I was tired of these people. You know, I understood. And sometimes you do have to fight back to make people leave you alone. You know, you fight back and they'll leave you alone. You know, we used to say that back in the day that you could tell a real sovereign because you're a real sovereign. You really are put in the system when you beat them and you fight them and win. That's when they really start acknowledging you in the system, but they don't acknowledge you in the system, you know, if you don't have no victories or anything like that, or in some kind of way you haven't, you know, shown up in a way that makes them recognize. Because a lot of you ain't gonna never win because some of them things y'all use in court, like you don't have jurisdiction over me, they ain't gonna never put you in the system on that bullshit. They just gonna make a mockery of you. They're gonna keep on making videos about you on YouTube. And you also got to understand that they're never going to publicly acknowledge. They're never going to put someone's flying here. They're never going to publicly acknowledge that. Uh, they're never going to publicly acknowledge that they're involved in slavery. I mean, if they were selling bonds behind the scene, that's slavery. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's going to admit that. Y'all crazy if you think they're going to admit that. And I got to admit that. That don't make any sense. You know, it's just some of the things that y'all do and say when you look for, man, I saw something flying in here. I got to kill it. I got to kill it. I thought I had some spray, man. Kill it. Something got in here. But you know what I'm saying? It said peaceful greetings from the Empress of the House Echo of Embassy of Peaceful Dominion, Civilian Intelligence Agency, Telecommunications Consulting Department, Sovereign Intelligence Agency, UCC 1308. Okay, I mean that I don't know what to say about that. It says I'm finding HOAs and real estate are becoming middlemen to private agricultural ownership and into laws that apply. I could say that too. HOA is a part of private ordering. HOA is a part of private ordering too. Private ordering, definitely HOA. Definitely HOA is a part of private ordering. In Cleveland, most are corrupt. Those are mostly the black ones, and a suburb, East Cleveland, had most of the force indicted and convicted. Yeah, but I'm gonna put it like this: like in Cleveland, you know, it's like I don't live in Cleveland, so I'm not I can't really comment on it. I've been up there a couple of times though, and you know, it was very depressed area back in the day. You know, Cleveland, Ohio, at least through the '90s, it was. I don't know what has happened today. I'm sure it's experiencing some sort of revitalization because that was a long time ago. But I'm just saying that to say that the police a lot of times are reflective of the community. You don't see police doing all of that stuff over in the white communities or in the you know well-to-do communities. All right. Well, if you start emulating them and acting like them, they'll leave you alone too. Once you start keeping your yards together, you know what I'm saying? You know, just drive, honor the traffic laws. Don't steal. Don't do things. You know, we do things now. You know, we do things that warrant some sort of you know public oversight. You know, don't try to act like black people are just totally innocent of everything. We do things now. I used to be on that side of the world. That's why I can speak like that, because I used to be in the underworld. I used to be a part of the underworld, so I know exactly how everybody thinks. Ain't shit you can tell me about the underworld. How niggas think. Okay, I was surrounded by dudes. Let me tell you something. Everybody I associated with, wasn't nobody working, wasn't nobody doing anything legal. Everybody I knew was doing something illegal. Every fucking thing, from drugs to chop shops, girls boosting, credit card, check. I mean, just the whole gamut of everything. I knew somebody who was doing something, and that whole world. You can get so immersed into that world where the other world where people work and everything is so foreign to you, because at nighttime you're at the strip club or something like that, or some club partying or somewhere where you're hanging, you're trying to run after women and things like that. You're not going to no job. You got money. You're doing what you want with your life when you want. You wake up during the day trying to figure out what you're gonna do because it's a totally different lifestyle. So you can't tell me about the mindset that's over there. The mindset over there is a different type of mindset, and it needs to be policed. It needs to be policed because that mindset has to be policed. So nobody can tell me about that. It's a different world. Not to say that everybody's evil on that side, but everybody's in a survival mode, and everybody is trying to do what's best for them. They thinking that they doing what's best for them, but they really directing energy into the wrong thing. Because you can make all that money and do everything and never have to do anything illegal. You can do the same thing, and that's what really hurts a lot of people is when they find out that later. And they like, man, if I had just been taught this, or in some kind of way had somebody around me to really show me this when I was younger, I would have went this way right here. But nobody showed me the pathway to walk down there. I had to go out into the world and figure out shit for myself. And then figuring out things for myself, the only thing that was really guiding me was my morals. But how far can that carry you? Sometimes when you get into desperate situation and you need to make some money or something like that, or some opportunity presents itself, and now you being, subjected to temptation to do something that's going to make you a lot of money, and you've been suffering for a long time, and God ain't showed up in your life just yet, or anything like that lets you show that He's real, but you don't know this is a test that you're being tested right now. I ain't had nobody around me to tell me that. You got to find out all that stuff on your own. And that's the beauty of really, that's the beauty of of the older generation, when you're able to get wisdom, extract wisdom from them for things like that, because things that we went through. And that's all I try to do in this space. In this space, I just try to give you my wisdom. I see a lot of the same things that were going on when I first came into it. It's not anything different. The only thing that has changed is just the names. There's a lot of names that are different being thrown around. You now have social media where it is just all somebody has to do. Like I just saw somebody post something on TikTok. Go to the IRS, pull this, and see who got power of attorney over your name. And then that shit got 60,000 likes. And I was just looking, I was like, wow. I was like, wow, what is that? Why? And that's an indicator of the mindset because, she's demonizing the government and then she's perpetuating this myth that there's some sort of secret somewhere, that you have access to, that you can discover. They're perpetuating that. And in the perpetuation of that, now they can kind of funnel you into their sales funnel, offer you some sort of product that, again, I can help you how to do that right there. Everybody's playing on they understand the psychology of the people in this space. They're usually in a desperate situation. Everybody who comes into this space, either house is in foreclosure, you're looking at some sort of criminal charge, you're dealing with some sort of divorce or some sort of child support issue or something like that. Maybe you got some traffic tickets. That seems to be the overwhelming bulk of individuals dealing with traffic tickets. It's a lot of people who have issue that has some sort of exigent circumstance that they're attempting to deal with. And they're looking to try to find some kind of way to get some sort of resolution to that fast. Okay, so but in law, there's no way to teach somebody something fast. There's no way to teach somebody something fast. It take a long time to get acclimated to this information. You can't learn this stuff in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or go to a couple of seminars. They are lying to you when they attempt to, do that. It is a process to understanding the law. It's a process that you have to go through. And one of it is understanding common law and what that is in public and private, just the basics. Just the basics. A lot of people don't have that locked down. So that's leading to a lot of the confusion going on into the public spaces when people are coming in. I'm a private American citizen and I'm here, to get you to do your job as my public servant and shit like that. It's like, that's not how this shit works, bro. That's not how it works. Okay. Public servants serve the public, they don't serve you. And you have to understand, you not the public. A public servants, they serve the public government, not you. You are not the public. You're a private citizen. You're not the when they say public servant, they ain't talking about serving you. They're not serving you. That's an example of how people misinterpret things too. They misinterpret that. That's why I say you got to understand public and private. When you say the word public, that means government. Everything that you can associate with the word public is government. Public welfare, public education. We can just keep going. Everything that you can associate with the word public is dealing with the government. The government, that's their domain. That's not your domain. That domain is put in place to serve you in so far as they stay out of your business. They protect your borders, protect your property, and protect your liberty. But only if you stay within the private domain, which you don't understand where that's at. And that's what private ordering is all about, telling you how to order your affairs in such a way where either you can avoid public interaction altogether, or if you engage the public, it's done so under a controlled type of process. You have to be, and that's what it is. And you will see that, I'm like, God, I've learned so much just in the last year, so many different things, so many misconceptions that I had about things. And that's because I was allowing other people to guide me. I'm gonna tell you this story again. When I was in school one time, I was taking night classes, and I was getting an A+ certification, and I was getting a networking certification. I think a CCNA certification, and I was in a class with these military guys, and this was just a lesson for me. This was a lesson for me, and I always tell this story, but I hope it's a lesson to you, because a lot of times you are listening to people who are not as intelligent as you are, and you give them too much, you give them too much credit. But anyway, these were military guys, and they all, like, one of the guys, he was an executive at a company. Other guys, they worked on technology for the military, and they was getting ready to come into civilian life, so they were getting a certification. So all these guys with these credentials were around me, and they're talking. So that made me also kind of, defer to them at times. And we were getting ready to study for an exam, and uh, our professor, he gave us the questions. Okay, so we've had a study group, and they were questions they weren't easy questions. We had to get together and open up the books and hunt them down and study them. So we did it in a study group. It was about 9 of us, and we always studied together. We were all straight A students. All of us were on the dean's list, and we were all going through each of the questions, getting a consensus on some of the answers, and pretty much we were always in agreement. Yeah, this is it. This is the one. But we came to this one in particular where they all agreed on it, and I just didn't read it that way. I saw something different because I had been studying this subject very intensely. I'm like, look, that's not the answer. And they all went against me, and they were like, you don't know what you're talking about, Jones, blah, blah, blah. And and because of who they were, I deferred. I said, okay, I tell you what, I'm gonna go on the road with y'all, but I don't think that's the answer. So when we get our grades back, we all miss that question. And so now our professor, he's reviewing, how in school after you get your paperwork back, now he wants to go over the test with you and everything. So he going over each of the individual questions. So when we get to that particular question, before he could say anything, because I'm already 38 hot, because when we got the questions back, I'm looking at the paper and I'm looking at their ass and everything. And they looking at me, they ain't saying nothing, but I'm just looking at them, I'm just, because this is my time to shine now because how they treated me, and you know what I mean. I told them that wasn't the answer, and now I'm looking at it, so I'm ready to fire off on them. And so when it gets to me, I raised mine. I said, Professor, look, all I want to say is that I argued with these guys that this is not the answer. It's this answer right here. And he looked at me. I remember I was just always, man, it's a white man. I just remember him just looking at me and he smiled and he said, "You're right." And then and I think the reason he smiled is because I'm always the first one in class and the last one to leave. And I stayed late studying because I worked at the school too. And so I was always studying. He would always see me every time he'd come in, he would see me. I would already be there, sitting in my seat, reading or doing some type of study or something like that. So when I said that, he took back up the papers. And then when he gave it back to me, he gave me 100. He gave me credit for that. And I always remembered him for that because it just like, I was like, man, it's a cool ass teacher. And but he understood that, he was a good teacher. He was a good teacher. He really was. And that taught me a lesson about trusting myself, trusting my first mind, trusting my instincts, trusting the work that I put in. I put in work into this space. It ain't like, people coming and talk about debating me. Yeah, I'll debate you. You think I won't debate you? I've been doing this 20 years. You think you're going to, I'm afraid to debate you. And you've been doing this 5 years, 8 years, 3 years, or something like that. You think you learn more in that short amount of time than I have? You think in some kind of way that you've discovered something that I haven't? You think that I've been studying this for 20 years and I've just been doing it wrong, and all of you discovered something all of a sudden, just giving a cursory observation into the subject? I when you say that to me, I have to destroy you. I have to destroy you because it's disrespectful. I have to show you for the fool that you are. And it might sound arrogant to you, but it just goes to show you don't know me. You coming in here talking to me, you don't know who you talking to. I am a hood, I'm a street cat. 100. And I got carried that attitude with me into this space, into the intellectual space. It's like, okay, you want to bust? I bust back. I'm not afraid to pull the trigger either. That's what it comes down to. I'll pull that motherfucking trigger on your ass, all right, in a heartbeat. Okay, so if you want to do it, let's do it. I've looked at you. I've already scouted you out. I already did surveillance on you. Oh, this ain't nothing right here. Yeah, I got this. Quick work. Because you can't fake 10,000 hours. You can't fake it. You can't fake 10, like you can't fake being in shape. There's some things you can't fake. You can't fake put it in 10,000 hours. You can look at certain individuals, right? You can look at there's certain individuals on YouTube who I look at, and I look at them and I say, okay, that's a sharp brother. If I was to engage that brother in some kind of way, I need to make sure that I really know my subject that I'm talking about. And not only that, I need to have a certain amount of integrity with it because my integrity may get tested at some point too. But if you're already a person that has integrity, that's something that you don't worry about in the first place because you always exercise an integrity in everything that you do. It's just who you are as a person. It's that you're living in truth. You're living in truth and you know who you are. And you're not trying to be anything else. But yeah, it's like people come on my time talking about that, man, like somebody disagree with me like they some sort of authority. There isn't anywhere in any of this space where this written down formally. It's nothing written down formally. That's why everybody comes up with all these different processes because there's no formal instructions written down. There's not even a formal instruction for the secure party process. There's no formal instruction. The thing is, okay, let me show you how the secure party process breaks down, how logically it breaks down. Okay, there's a public and a private. The public is bankrupt. The private is where value comes from because they're real living people capable of performing labor. Labor has value. Labor can be put in the form of a bond, which is a future process. A bond. You're promising to do something in the future. In the future. Okay, nobody can tell you what your value is as a human being. Who knows? You might be the next trillionaire. You might come up with the answer to death. Okay, you might come up with some kind of invention where now we can just teleport all over the planet, and all of a sudden now airplanes are obsolete. Okay, nobody knows, so nobody can say put a value on you, but they can put a minimum value on you called minimum wage, because all human beings are worth something. Okay, so now with that, and we understand now how the government, how they create money. How do they go to the Treasury Department and borrow money? Okay, how do they guarantee the repayment of that money? It have to be the American people. It can only be through the American people. It can, and American people, how do they get it from us? Through taxes. So it can only be through taxes that they can go and borrow $2 trillion and promise to pay it back based off the labor of the American people. Now you understand why they are the ones that fund public schools, because you got to educate this slave force. We got to educate them so they can come out here and work for us and help us pay back this national debt. All of that, that's the creation of money through obligations. So once you understand that framework, how do you protect yourself from it? Well, that framework has a priority. Okay, they have something liens. Everything is based off liens. Well, liens, they have liens in the real estate area and they have liens in the personal property area. Okay, and both of those, there's a priority of filing, the first in line, first in time. They take priority in the collateral. Okay, well, we've seen that, like for instance, in Georgia, you have OCGA 1711 1 that tells you that every time they convict you of a crime, they put a lien on you. Well, put a lien on what? On all my property. It says that on all your property. Okay, well, how are you putting a lien on me? Well, it's saying I owe a debt. That's a debt obligation. That's creating some sort of creditor and debtor relationship. Okay, how do I protect myself from that? That's what the secured party process was. But at the same time, it was also a process to help the government, because now if I'm blocking myself from the government being able to put liens against me, how are they going to pay back their debt obligations? And that's where you come in and you say, well, look, I'm going to give you a bond. Okay, you can trade with that. You can do whatever you want. Any windfall that you experience from it, you can retain that for yourself. But the principle remains with me to offset public obligations. And this is what I want you to do with me, for me. Okay, now that constitutes a claim against the public, against the taking of the gold. All right, that's an equitable matter. Okay, that is what a constructive trust is for, to prevent unjust enrichment. That's the argument you're making every time that you file a claim against the United States. It's from the taking of the gold. It's from preventing us from having access to conduct our affairs privately, because the only way we could do that is with gold and silver. And you can't even use the commodities and exchange market because that's regulated. I should be able to engage in my affairs outside of regulated activity, and I can in my commercial matters, because you took away all the gold we utilized to facilitate that commerce. This is why Mayor Amschel Rothschild said, I care not who make a nation's laws. Give me control of the money. And he's right, because controlling the money controls everything. They can remove you from that jurisdiction, which you call the republic, just by taking the money away, because now you got to be acceptor of benefits and privileges. Now you got to accept a system, a Federal Reserve system. That's what you're operating in, because everything in it takes Federal Reserve notes, which is not constitutional money in the sense that it operates in the republic, but it is constitutional in the sense that it operates under the plenary power doctrine of Congress, that they are in control of the money under Article 1, and they can do whatever they want within a territorial jurisdiction. That's why they need a membership card to come in that territorial jurisdiction. That's called a Social Security card. It's a private club. Okay, so you can't complain about it. Get out of the club. You can't go in their club and complain about how they're running their club. Your ass is going to get kicked out, and they're going to make sure your head hits the door. I know if I'm the owner of the club, that's what's happening to you. Come in my club hollering and shit and fucking up. This is a nice place, nigga. Get out. Take that nigga shit somewhere else. Make an example out of him, too. Make sure his head hits the door. He's on his way out. You know what I'm saying? That's how you got to start seeing this. You're not looking at it through the right lens, is all that I'm saying. And it's because you don't understand public and private. Please stop going into these courtrooms saying that you don't have jurisdiction over me. How are you going to justify that argument? Anybody like to explain to me how that argument works? I know you're going to say, well, it's a corporation, and y'all going to start saying all that. You don't even understand the definition of corporation. Corporation is in the Federalist Papers, but it doesn't mean, you got to look up the definition of corporation 200 years ago, not the way it is today. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean an artificial person engaged in the and profit or gain activity. That's not what corporation meant. A body politic. That's you know how English has different senses of the word. Okay, the sense of the word that corporation is used for the United States of America is not an incorporation that like is registered with the Secretary of State so they can go make profit and gain. Y'all are thinking that y'all are stupid. Okay, that's just stupid. That's not what it is. Okay, it is not a corporation in that sense of the word. It's not. They have a jurisdiction. It is called a territorial jurisdiction. Now, you should have the right to operate outside of that. That's where the fight is. Why are you keep bringing me into this territorial jurisdiction? Then we need to be able to clearly define the separation between the republic and this democracy, because under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, I was guaranteed a Republican form of government. Now, if I want to petition my government for anything, that's what I'm going to petition them for. But you can't when you're ignorant of what that is. And they made sure of it. That's why the TM 2000-25 military training manual that was put out, that's why the Democrats got rid of it in 1930, because they didn't want the military. They started dumbing everybody down. The object was to dumb everybody down, and they have successfully done that, where now only 50% of the population reads on a 7th grade level. How in the hell are they going to free themselves when they're ignorant? Thomas Jefferson, he said, those who hope to be both ignorant and free are hoping for something that never has been and never will. There's never been a point on planet Earth where people can simultaneously be ignorant and free. Even Jesus understood that when he said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Everybody understands that it's your ignorance that has you enslaved. It's not the government. Your ignorance of you not knowing who you are spiritually. Not understanding that you have the power over all things just by changing your thinking, that you're not a victim. God didn't create victims. God didn't create you weak. You've been convinced to be weak. You've been indoctrinated to be weak. You've been fooled into being weak. You've been inveigled into being weak. You've been tricked into being fearful. That's the devil. That's the devil. That's where you find the devil. The devil has one job, to make you doubt yourself, fear and doubt. He has one job, fear and doubt. He can't make you do nothing. The devil cannot make you do anything. If he could, there would be no need for a judgment day. There would be no need for a judgment day, because you could just go up to heaven and say, you know what, God, the devil made me do it. You know what? Come right on in. Right answer. Yeah, I did all of these bad things, God, but the devil made me do it. Good answer. It don't work like that. It's not working like that. All right. There's accountability and responsibility. Fear is a decision. Doubt is a choice. This is why you can't do none of this stuff without some sort of spiritual foundation. If you lack a spiritual foundation, if you don't understand how spiritual laws work, I'm talking about laws now. I'm not talking about religious rhetoric when I'm talking. I'm talking about true spirituality, understanding spiritual laws and their operate, understanding how mental laws operate. What do you think they're studying up in these under these private member associations like the Masons and the Rosicrucians and the Illuminati and the Skull and Bones and all these different Brotherhood of Light, all these different organizations? What do you think they're studying? I've read almost all of their books. They're all studying the same thing. They're all studying mental laws, spiritual laws, all of them. They're studying the same thing. They just got different ways of teaching it, but they got different ways of all teaching the same thing. You might like the way the Rosicrucians teach it as opposed to the Masons, but they're teaching the same thing. They got a different hierarchy for their degrees and all of that stuff, but they're all teaching the same thing: character building. Everybody works for the corporation. Everybody don't work for the everybody works for the corporate. No, you don't. You don't have to work for the corporation. You choose to work for the corporation. Don't put that on the corporation. Don't y'all see, you'll never get out with that victim shit. That victim shit is never gonna you're going to die like that, talking like that. You're gonna die talking like that. You're gonna die talking like that. That type of talk and that type of mindset is a dead end road. It doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't lead anywhere. Doesn't lead anywhere. So you're wasting your time engaging in it because it doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't lead in accountability. If the law operates off the fact that you are the author of your life, and everything starts with a decision, which starts with you. Until you acknowledge that, nothing's going to shake for you. Nothing is going to change because you're not addressing the cause. You're only addressing the effect. That's what doctors do to you when you catch a headache and disease. They give you aspirin. Well, aspirin doesn't address the cause. All it does is dampen the effect. It kills the nerves around the illness where you won't feel it. All right, but it doesn't get rid of the root cause, and that's why your headache comes back. Well, you're doing the same thing. This right here is like people want to sell you aspirin. I'm not trying to sell you aspirin. Okay, I'm trying to get you to change the way. I'm trying to get you to change your eating habits and exercise more. Stop thinking that there's some magic health pill or something like that. There's no magic health pill. You need to drink more water. Stop eating after 6 o'clock. Cut out all damn processed food out of your body. Get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and exercise for 30 minutes intently. Okay, that's how you get to good health and everything. All right, it ain't no magic pills that you need to go to the store and get, a no shit like that. It all starts with you. All right. And that's why the physical body is the business. You cannot hide that. You have to. I have so much respect for people in shape because I know what it takes to do that, man. That is dedication and commitment. Much worthy of praise. Worthy of praise. Hey, Mr. Oh, the government cheat line still. Yeah, that's Google Rockefeller. He said, I want a nation that does a nation thinkers. Well, yeah, you don't have a record that he said that. He said that in confidence with somebody. Obviously, when he mean a record of it. That sounds why this what tripped me out. You say he didn't say that, but the evidence that it exists, I would put more faith, and he did say that than he didn't, because I'm seeing that's like with the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. They said that this document is a fake, it's a fraud. Where when you read it, you see that everything that's happening today they predicted in there, everything. But they try to denounce it and say, oh no, this is some BS. But they so people won't read it. Because when you read it, you're like, nah, this ain't no BS. And who gonna write something this sophisticated, this detailed, and then everything that it's talking about is happening right now? And then you want to tell me that it's some bullshit. It take a facile-minded fool to fall for it, but people do. And people do it all the time. And he keep calling it the corporation. What kind of yes, mayhem? What kind of corporation is it? Tell me what kind of corporation it is, because I see you like calling the United States a corporation. So what kind of corporation are you talking about? Because you like to keep referencing it as a corporation. All right, what kind of corporation is the United States of America? Is it an LLC? It's a C corp, S corp. What kind of corporation is it? See, this is how you get them. You start asking them questions, right, that they can't answer. That's how you start testing, because he wants to keep using this word corporation. After I've already explained that it's not a corporation today that's for profit and gain, but he keeps calling it a corporation. So let's engage in the discussion of what kind of corporation it is. I'll let you use your AI too, if you want to. Because I know you don't understand. You're just using a word and you don't understand what you're saying. And that's what has to stop. That's what I'm battling against. That's echo chamber rhetoric. You cannot substantiate that in anything that you've read. You can run to a statute 28 3002 or whatever. The United States is a corporation and all that. That doesn't mean what you. That's a statute. You got to understand the purpose of the statute of why they said that. But people will run with it. Go get a code of federal regulation or something like that. Put that code of federal regulation in AI and see what it tells you what it's for. They don't want to do that. And see, that's what they're going to be running from, because people are going to now, oh, you saying this right here, the United States is a corporation. Let me put this in my AI and see what it says. And then your AI is not going to tell you it's bullshit. It's going to explain it to you. And then it's going to give you references to go to and check out and things like that. It's not going to just tell you it's bullshit. You're going to get an education behind it. These guys ain't going to do that. They prefer to keep believing whatever it is that they've been told. They're not trying to grow in any capacity whatsoever. And that's why they're going to keep experiencing the same life. Because if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same thing. And I'm all about change. I'm all about growth. And the information that was given to us, some of it was good. I'm not saying all of it was bad. All right. But a lot of it that I think is rooted in some sort of Marxist type of ideology where you keep playing this role of a victim. That's really, at the end of the day, what it's really all about is the people who are doing the most complaining, the people who don't have any money. So that's why it's Marxism too, because Marxism is stating that the bourgeoisie is oppressing the proletariat, the working class of people. They're being oppressed by the wealthy people. So the wealthy people need to be taxed. The wealthy people's property need to be taken, and that's what they're doing. They want the government to oppress the wealthy people. They said the government needs to protect us from the wealthy people. That's why Ayn Rand came out with that book, Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged, Atlas got the world on his back. So the people who made all these businesses, this infrastructure that you love so much, the automobiles that you love to drive, the internet that you love to use, the cell phone that you love to use, the running water that you love to use, the video games, all this was created by corporations. All these things were created by corporations. The shoes that you have on your feet, the clothes on your back, corporations created all of that. So if we just remove all of our corporations out of society, what will you have? See what I'm saying? Now don't change up now. You said it's a corporation. No, don't change up now. And what does that have to do with anything? Okay, let's say it is a corporation. That doesn't change anything. So what? A corporation can govern. So I don't understand. It's not de facto. Y'all need to get a Black's Law dictionary, and I'm sorry, American jurisprudence, and study de facto and de jure, so you understand what those words mean. Because a lot of y'all use those words and don't know what they mean. You don't even know what it means. Those concepts mean. You're just using the word, or you looked it up in a dictionary. I'm telling you to go and study the subject of de facto and de jure, not just look up the meaning of the word. Go read the case law on it. That's where I'm directing you, not to a dictionary. So you can get a thorough understanding of the subject. Because a lot of you use words, you don't know what you're saying. Ain't nobody making it difficult to own no business. They got regulations in place for a reason. I have a business. I don't see anything difficult in owning a business. I got to pay taxes. I got to do things like that. Yeah, that's the price of doing business. And I understand why I pay taxes. I understand what it's for. Is it kind of high at times? Yeah, I think so. But that just makes me make more money. You know what I'm saying? That's not any indication of the evil of the government. That's more of an indicator of that I'm not imagining big enough. I'm not. And another thing is that the thing about taxes is the government lets you write off a lot of stuff for business expenses. You only really have problems when you're trying to take income or you're trying to do things in a personal capacity. You don't need to pay yourself. The thing about having a business is you don't need to have a income from it. That's where people mess up. They want to take a check or something like that. No, you make your bid. You put everything in the business name and then have the business pay for everything in your life. Everything is a business expense. Every trip you take, everything you do is a business expense. That's what you have to understand. But you don't understand that. The public is about business. Okay, if you don't want to do business, sit your ass down. Get the fuck out of the way. Okay, stop crying and complaining. Go get a job, play the position of an employee. But understand that the system was not designed to accommodate employees. It was designed to accommodate business owners, not employees. Just understand that. Okay. You got to understand how this framework is set up. The goal is to go become from an employee to self-employed to business owner to an investor. Okay, that's the game. That's how the game board is set up. A lot of you want to stay as an employee. Well, there's a lot of liability attached to that position of an employee because you're taking an income. The object of the game is not to have any income. That's what you got to understand. The system rewards you for not having an income. You get penalized for it. That I know that sounds maybe strange to people or whatever, but that's because you haven't been taught how the system operates. You've been operating under an assumption of how the system operates. The system is a business environment. It's business. See, like, look at that just victim shit. The government is a business and we're the write-offs. And they got a picture of white Jesus right there. I mean, just listen. Look at their mindset. You should just read the comment section. And there's no power in anything they say. They try to keep you within a victim mindset, but then they represent. Jesus just said, "If you tell this amount to be cast into the ocean, but do not doubt it in your heart, but believe the things that you have said, nothing is impossible to you." But they're gonna have a picture of him. Is that what that is? Is that Jesus? Oh no, ain't no Jesus. I thought it was Jesus or something. I'm blind. Expand on that and talk about the accrual method of accounting. And as I'm not an accountant, I'm not going to talk about nothing. And what does that have to do about anything? I'm not even talking about accounting right now. We're not talking about accounting. We're talking about public and private. Why do I need to you don't do you understand public and private? Do you understand off balance, off sheet of balance, off sheet reporting, and so forth as it relates to accounting? Accounts receivables and accounts payables and all of that, and the matching principle. I mean, that's all that is. It's the matching principle. Every time you make a deposit, they have to simultaneously record it as an asset and a liability simultaneously. That's all that is. That should tell you everything you need to know right there. An asset, okay, there's accounts payable, what's owed to you, and accounts receivable, what's owed to them. If there's an accounts payable, okay, what happened to the payable on the balance sheet? Well, they had to move it over to a different set of books. And this is when you get into that 1099A and all of that asset. And then y'all done took that and try to buy shit with it. You got 1099. Back in the day, at least we were using a 1099 OID, 1099A, 1096, and a 1040V. Okay, those are the tax forms. Y'all just using the 1099. Y'all just dropped all that other shit. Just 10 acquisition and abandonment. This means when I can acquire something with this. It just be like, how did you get this meaning from this? But that's what people do. That's what they do. It's like, it's crazy. It's like when you look at what they're doing, it's laziness and I have to say this because if I don't say this, there's no one around to say it because all of these new people are new people. So they haven't seen the old school. They don't know the history. The new generation don't care about the old generation. Just like in rap, the new rappers, they don't even go back and listen to old rappers or anything like that. They don't even know what rap really is. So that's how they are. Their mindset is like that. They don't study history or anything like that. They don't look at that. They think that they smarter than we are. That they in some kind of way and they do have access to more information, but they don't utilize it. They don't utilize it. They do have more stuff at their fingertips because we had all this stuff back in the early. If I had access to all of this in the 90s, it's that everything in government is commerce. So everything in the public is commerce. Everything in the public is dealing with business. Everything in the public is dealing with business. Everything in the public is dealing with business, and the government regulates all of that. All that activity, that's what they're there for. They govern that activity because that framework is a regulated space. It's a regulated space. You got to understand how to move outside that space. and what that space is. It's not declaring. You can't declare yourself into the space. You can't declare yourself out of jurisdiction. You have to engage in conduct outside of that jurisdiction and know how to do that. But it's impossible to completely avoid the public in today's times. So then you need to put in structures that when you do happen to interface with the public is done through in a controlled way. That's the purpose of a private trust. A private trust, or that is holding an LLC or C corp or something like that. You put in entities together because those entities allow you to engage the public in a controlled way. However, there's nothing that's going to help you if you're engaging in criminal conduct. None of those entities are going to help you. They come into you directly, and they're going to put the liability on you directly. So that's why one of the rules is you got to be an honorable person. You have to do equity in order to get equity. So your conduct is always going to be evaluated, especially in equity. Equity judges, they get to they are the ones in equity. It allows you to determine if you think somebody's telling the truth. Whereas in criminal, in the statutes, it's like, no, they got everything written through the statute. But equity is discretionary. It gives the judges a lot of discretion. They can look at your conduct, and you could be right in everything you're saying, and they'll rule against you because of your conduct. So how you conduct yourself in court is very, very important. How you dress, how you come into the courtroom, that's very, very important. You being recalcitrant or being disrespectful in your tone and in your body language and everything, that's going to count against you. That's going to count against you. We need to get back to being a respectful people again. I don't know what happened when we started idolizing uh, this ratchet behavior, and you know what I'm saying? It seems like the worst of our society are the people who are being highlighted, and they're the ones that are in leader positions. And it's going to take strong individuals who stand on principles and everything to overcome all that shit. See, it takes a man who don't care what people think about him or what he says to overcome that shit. Weak men who are susceptible to the opinions of other men, they can't restore society. Those type of men aren't be able, because the defense mechanism that they use over there for that bullshit they're doing is shame, guilt, insult, and the need to be right. A whole bunch of feminine characteristics, a whole bunch of feminine shit that only true masculinity is going to come in there and dominate. That's all it is. Got to take back. Got to take back control, man. That's another thing. Y'all complain about the government, but shit, y'all don't do anything y'all don't vote. You don't do anything to try to change it. They introduce bills. You don't even know the name of the person who introduced the bill. Like, for instance, how did we get to the point where our family court system is so biased against a man? Who are the people who wrote those laws? Why aren't you bringing them to account? Why aren't you going up to them and saying, hey, look, man, why did you vote for this, man? Don't you see? I want you to sit down and explain to me. And truly, I'm one of your constituents. I want you to explain to me why you voted for this law that's oppressing all fathers, where our children are getting taken from us. We don't see them for years at a time or nothing like that. You don't do anything for that. But as soon as I miss a child support payment, you come in to lock my ass up. Where did that come from? How is that in the best interest? Are you really truly trying to say that the best interest of the child is for the child to be separated from both parents? Why aren't you making a law that says it's mandatory that the children be with both parents? Why aren't you doing that? Why are we asking them? It's people that are responsible for all of this, that have a record. Okay, when they vote, it's left in the public record how they voted. Why aren't you taking them to account? Who voted for this? What type of men do we allow into power that put us in these positions? That's the question you need to be. It wasn't nothing but some weak men, some weak spineless men. They probably got hanging something over their head. They like little boys or something like that. Something like that. That's all it is. They got no power or authority or anything like that. They got some sort of vices that they were able to be exploited, and now they're being controlled like puppets. Public and private is, look, let me see if I can give you a simple example of public and private. Public is anything the government pays for that's using public money. Anything that the government is using public money on takes on a public character. Um, Public safety, they regulate safety. All interaction between human beings is public in nature. So, there's going to be not all interactions, but you know what I mean. It's like when you come into a municipality or using public roadways and things like that. Public safety, it's anything, anything that is outside. Private rights begin where public regulation ends. Private rights begin with public right. The problem is you don't see a lot of private stuff because most of us spend all of our time on social media, which is a public space. We spend all our time on that, or we go to a public school, or we go to a grocery store, or we go to a shopping mall, or we go to movies. Everything about our life is so public that when you start saying private, it's something that people have to be taught. You have to really be taught what is private. It's not just declaring it. You have to, be taught what that is because the majority of your life you've been living in the public sector. Everything you've been doing has been public. It's been involving the government. Hell, black people, we've been Democrats, and the Democrats are wholly for the public. They are pushing a public agenda. They pushing a welfare agenda. That's their agenda. So they wholly into the government. So that's what if you cannot be taking benefits and privileges from the government and then simultaneously try to say that they're doing something unconstitutional. You can't challenge a statute, but then at the same time be taking advantage of it. They're not going to allow you to do that. I've done the optional form 91, 24, 25, 20, and making the secure party. I took these in 1099 and now I present those. I don't know. I'm not going to answer that. Now, a public forum, you come to SPC University. I'm not going to get into all of that right now. That's paid money right there. Y'all be thinking somebody just supposed to tell y'all something for free. You come to the university and get answers to that. Once I see you a member, that's easy. Optional form 91, standard form 24, 25, 25A, standard form 141. Okay, well, those are, okay, first of all, one set of forms is federal and another set is state. So I don't understand what you're using them for. And the UC, I took these in 1999 OID 1098A and C. Now, how do I? Oh, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell you where you can go read, though. You can go read, what is that? Don't be zero out your account. And you can read, what is that by Obi-Wan Kenobi? Nature of the Remedy. I mean, they got it in there. They show you how to do all of that. It's all that been on the internet. It's no secret. A lot of that stuff been on the internet for like 20 years, 25 years. Y'all just don't know it. What y'all see a lot of people talking about comes from those documents, but they just been watered down, or they try to make their own thing, make it go their own way or something like that. But it said, G-Rod, your account, I don't know, Nature of the Remedy. Yeah, you can read Nature of the Remedy. Let me see. Can the private capacity people use a bond to keep the public law enforcement agencies away from our private affairs? No. No, you need to stay away from public affairs. They not coming to you, you coming to them. You're trying to assert a private right in the public regulated space, and you don't understand public and private. You think some bond is just going to magically keep people away? That's not how it works. Your conduct, they not coming to you. The public do not seek out the private. The private seeks out the public because you need what they got. They don't need what you got. They don't need nothing from you. They don't need anything from the private, except the bodies to come in and go to work. That's it. But they don't need nothing for what private property you got that they need that they can't take? When right there in the Constitution it says private property cannot be taken without due process of law and just compensation. It doesn't say they can't take private property. They can come take private property. It says that when they do it, they got to compensate you for it and give you due process before they take it. So I'm not understanding what the public need. Why do the public need to come to you? For what? What are they coming to you for? For what? Make me understand what you're saying. Make me understand what you're saying, because what you're saying don't make sense to me. Can you give a bond to keep them from coming into the private? They're not going to see. That's what I'm saying is thinking that you got. You think they're coming into the private. They're not coming into the private. You're going to them. You don't know that. You're trying to say, oh, I got a right to travel. No, you don't. You got a right to travel. Yeah, travel doesn't mean the mode. Travel means going from state to state. You got a right to go across state lines. That's all right to travel mean. It doesn't have anything with the mode of travel. It means that you have a right to go over a state line and nobody gonna stop you for a passport or nothing like that. That's what right to travel means. You can Google it right now, and that's what you're going to get. But for some reason, you dumb motherfuckers do not want to accept that. I don't know what to say. Even you can Google it, and then you're going to say there's something wrong with me when you can see what this shit is saying. Why would an intelligent man such as myself be trying to ride with you when I can read this and see what it's saying? And you can't comprehend what this paragraph is telling you. When you can sit here and Google right to travel, and it will tell you the meaning of it. It means to go from state to state. That's what it means. How y'all like this camera? Don't this camera look nice? I like this camera. This shit is nice. I got the blurred background in the back. I like the light. Man, I got so cold with the lighting and everything now. Just we got a professional studio. We gotta have some guests in here, but it is definitely we got top-notch equipment. I'm very, very proud of our studio. We got a top-notch studio. It's nice. It's real nice. Sometimes I look around like, damn, we built all this. I mean, it's not. It's just like I gotta give Mr. Brewer. Mr. Brewer, he built houses. He built custom homes, and he had his crew come in here, and they did all of this. Man, he just had his crew come in here in 1 week, and they did all this in 1 week. Put up everything up, put in the recessed lighting and the soundproof paneling and everything. They did a hell of a job. The lighting, all that, it was nice, real nice. Let me see what we got right here. We got speaking from experience, right to travel is a special accommodation request for religious purposes, not wanting to be enumerated. It ain't none of that shit you just said. Not none of that bullshit you just said. I don't know where you got that from, but you cannot substantiate nothing what you just said. That's not what right to travel means. I didn't study this shit for about a year. Okay, right to travel. See, this is what they don't understand in the United States. In the United States, when the Constitution was created, or borning, as they said, America was imitating Europe. When you go over to Europe right now, you have different countries. You have Italy, you have Greece, you have Spain, you have Portugal, you have Switzerland, Belgium, Germany, Netherlands. You got all these different countries. The UK, okay? Well, that's the same like we have over here in America: Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, New York, California, all these different states, okay? Over on that side of the world, they would be called countries, okay? They're different countries. When you go to Europe, you need a passport to go between different countries. You still do in most jurisdictions. In the United States, they decided we're not going to have that. We're going to unite together, okay? We're going to unite all the states together and give you the right to egress across state lines without requiring any type of identification from you. That's right to travel. Okay, that's what it is. You can make it up all you want, but that's all you can do is just make it up because you can't substantiate it. I don't care what court records that you got. Your court records don't mean shit to me. I'm telling you what the law says, and I'm telling you what 100 years of precedent says. Fuck your court records. Oh my God. That's not proof of anything. That's not any authority of anything. It's not an authority. And if you want, you can bring them. I'll examine them because I guarantee the reason or whatever it was, what you're saying. I can almost guarantee you that you're misquoting something. It happens 100% of the time. Guarantee you misquoting something. Anybody can Google what I'm saying right now. This what be pissing me off because they try to make it sound like it's something else. You can put it in Google. Put right to travel meaning in Google. Everybody, you can do it right now. Put it in Google and tell me what it says. Does it say what he's saying? They're gonna ignore that though. That's why they terrorists. That's why they terrorists. I'm trying to tell you because then they're gonna try to influence you over to their way of thinking by trying to demonize the government. It's like, nah, nigga, you just a lawless individual. That's what you are. You're really a criminal trying to justify your crimes. That's all it is. I'm just gonna keep it. I'm just keeping it a stack because that's not what it says. It does not say anything like what you're saying. Used a pretrial stipulation. That's good. All right, fine. What is that? That's not a pretrial stipulation, which is an agreement between the parties, is not indicative of the law in any capacity. It just means you reach an agreement. What'd you do? Go suck his dick or something like that? Pay him some money? It could have been a whole bunch of different things that happened. All right, that doesn't mean anything because you got a pretrial stipulation. A pretrial stipulation doesn't mean anything. That means that you settled out of court. Nobody knows what happened. That's a private agreement. You tripping, man. That mean anything. Y'all try to make what happened to you make it seem like this is the law. It's not the law. It's not the law. It's not the law. Okay. The law says what it says. Y'all try to make up shit, trying to make this right to travel shit. You getting a lot of people fucked up. Y'all getting a lot of people fucked up. It's people that are being shot. I saw a chick shoot a police officer the other day and drive off. It's a lot of stuff that's happening. I saw a shootout the other day. Oh, you don't have jurisdiction over me. Dude pulled out a gun, got into a shootout 15 times with the police. This is what y'all are doing. And y'all not right. You're not right because I'm sitting here reading what the law says going back 100 years and ain't none of this shit saying what you said, what you trying to say it says. So it's my job to come to the people and give them the truth because you're not going to give them the truth. You're going to try to play this game like a woman. I ever met a woman like everybody that she ever dated was wrong. She ain't nothing wrong with her ass. Every man she ever been with was wrong. That's how they are. It's like they not wrong about nothing. If you talk to these people in these echo chambers, they never wrong. They never wrong. The government is always wrong. I'm trying to tell you. Okay, differentials of roaming slaves that induce to impose narratives to the masses or the adoption incentives and secret society. I don't know. Listen, if you're going to fall for somebody tricking you into something, that's only because you didn't do your own due diligence. The reason I can't be tricked in anything is I do my own research. I do my own research. I'm not depending on the research of somebody else. What you could do if somebody shares their research with me, and then I can utilize that and investigate it further, which people have done in the past. But it's like I'm doing my own research. I'm way past that trying to listen to a guru try to tell me, this is the way, like he's damn Moses or some shit trying to lead me out of the desert. Nah, I ain't into that anymore. I'm reading what the law says. I'm studying what the law actually says. I'm finding out where the gaps are for private matters and then understanding how I can utilize that. The first thing I had to understand is how this play of public and private actually operates. And that's where you get into statutory terms, the word person, whether it is a artificial or a natural person, capacity, classification, rights, remedies, duties, and liabilities. That formula, okay, you have to understand if you're going to engage the public. The public is about compliance. Those are not constitutional courts. They're administrative courts, and administrative courts are about compliance. They want you to comply with the rules of society, because that's what the statutes are there for. The statutes are there to bring an orderly society in the public in a commercial venue, and you're in that commercial venue, and they want order, law and order, and you're doing something disorderly. So when you come into the courtroom, what they're looking for is compliance. Do you have your license? Do you have your insurance? No, I don't. Well, that is required in this space for you to operate in this space. So we need compliance. And then you start arguing about something that's unrelated to the compliance. You're supposed to come in and say, yeah, I have my license, I have my insurance. Well, that's going to be a $250 fine. Well, I can accept that for value. All right, because that's where we get into the punishment. And what the punishment is that, who have I hurt? That, I'm being penalized for this. But you're going to have, you got to understand how this play on public and private, y'all. You're going to have to understand that. Look at when when you're taking a public benefit because you're getting taxed. It's tax. Oh God damn. Let me get this thing, man. I gotta kill this. It's a bug in here flying, y'all. Excuse me for a second. Got to get something in my hand to get ready. We gotta go old school on him because he's looking for death, and I'm about to give it to him. He wants death. He wants death. He lived a long time because he got kind of big. Just came to the end of the road, though. You came in the wrong room, homie. And didn't know one person that would adopt me by second visit. Well, Yusuf is a good patient man. Yeah. You know what? I can look in you know what's the trip when you start really looking in the mirror and seeing that you're aging, you know, I can really say that, I'm approaching. See, I look in the mirror and I see, I'm still look young, I still look youthful and everything, but I don't look the same way I did 10 years ago. And and it's like kind of you start kind of like, you know what, I got to start really thinking about my mortality. At some point, I've only been given a certain number of heartbeats, a certain number of breaths, um, a certain amount of days to wake up and go to sleep. And what are you going to do with all that time? When you start going, where'd he go, man? This thing. It's almost like he is mocking me. It's like he mocking me for me coming in, hit me, and then dip off and everything. It's almost like he mocking me. It said, let me see right here. Speaking from, ain't talking about, I'm not saying the U.S. is good, but I'm looking at these, I'm looking at this chat real quick. I'm trying to see what y'all talking about. I'm gonna have to get off. Oh man, damn, I've been on there an hour and 53 minutes. Let me get off, man. Damn, time go by fast. I gotta get off here. Hey, look, I want to thank everybody y'all tuning in today and just listening to me kind of rant a little bit on this Sunday. Hopefully, you were able to get something from all of this. I was just, I just kind of came on just to kind of put a bug in your ear, kind of give you something to think about, when you're out here in these echo chambers, because there's a lot of people just say things. You got to be careful about that. They always demonize in the government. There's no accountability for the actions they do or the conduct that they engage in. You got to be very, very careful of that. Um, that's a pit. That's a pitting us against them mentality. Don't engage in that. Just stay away from that us against them mentality. This is all the United States of America. Um, we've had traffic laws for 100 years. We've had a criminal justice system for a very long time. Uh, these people are there people within the system that are doing things illegally and unlawful without a doubt. I'm not saying that or anything like that, but I'm just saying that you It is your responsibility and your duty as a citizen to understand the laws and understand public versus private, the structure of society. I'm not just talking about statutory codes, how all of it is structured and how all of it interacts with each other. That's what you have to understand. You have to come into an understanding of that. And that's what's been lacking in this space is nobody's been teaching that. They're just saying that, hey, you declare yourself private. Nobody explains what that is. And then you fill out a lot of documents, you give it to the government, then you start walking around as if something has changed. That's the model that everybody's been operating off of, and that's the wrong model. That's the that's the wrong model. That's the wrong model. It's all right. It sounds like you're about to sign off. I'll keep. Yeah, I'm off. But anyway, tonight I think I'm going to do. I got to do some work. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. I'm probably not going to have time. Probably not going to have time. I want to do a natural law hour tonight. I really got to do a natural law hour today. I'm gonna try to put up the link. See if we can get through with this thing, and then I'm gonna do that. Anyway, I'm signing off. Peace, everyone. I holla.